Organization report 2019, every 4 seconds a person dies by suicide in the world. Now, September is the annual World Suicide Prevention Month, observed since 2003 to create awareness of suicide and to bring the world to commit to prevent suicide. With me today is a noble panel of our psychologist and a guest, and I will proceed to ask them to introduce themselves. I'll begin from my far left.
Yes.
Whenever you're ready, Whitney.
Yes. Hello viewers. My name is Whitney Ndemo. I work here at TINADA Youth Organization as a psychologist and a mental health expert.
Hi viewers, my name is Loyana Mundi Okelo. I'm a social worker and a community health worker by profession, and I'm a lived experience of suicide.
Suicide is probably the largest elephant in the room. Contributes to the biggest burden of mental health. And maybe before we proceed to get the perspective of a survivor and a professional psychologist, maybe Loyan, you may want to tell us about yourself. How was your childhood? What have you been up to?
Well, I was born a jovial child. I lived a good life since my childhood, and I never experienced anything until my youth. I think when I started my teenage at around the age of 13 is when I started experiencing, and I think this is because my parents were never available all the time for us. We were left under the care of nannies and other people.
And so, where does the rain begin to meet you? How did you begin to fall off? When did you ever find out that you should be concerned?
At the age of 15, I grew up with a very strict mother. She was very strict to an extent you couldn't face her to tell her some personal things that you want to discuss with her because you had the fear of she might beat you. So at the age of 16, when I was in high school, I didn't perform well in school. So this is when I started having issues, because instead of her sitting me down, she could vet her anger on me, on how she's using her fees on me and I'm not bringing back good results.
Before I come back to you, she says that one of the indicators of her falling off was the bad grades and then the parenting that she was getting. Perhaps, Whitney, would you tell us your understanding of suicide?
According to the World Health Organization, suicide is usually considered a serious public health concern. The reason why it's a public health concern is that when someone attempts or when someone dies to suicide, most of the time, not only are they either they will end up dying to suicide, or if they don't end up dying to suicide, the attempts might affect them at a personal level, and sometimes when it also gets out to the public, it might also get to affect the people around them. It could be family, it could be friends. That is why it's considered a public health concern. And no one ever wakes up one day and says that today I want to commit suicide. Most of the time, it's usually a last resort. You'd realize whenever you sit down and you share with someone who has tried to attempt suicide, you'll always find that they were struggling, they were going through something, and when they realize that they've exhausted all their options and nothing makes more sense, then it is one of the way out. And so sometimes since it's a public health concern, it usually affects people of all ages. You'd never say that maybe it's youth who are most affected, it's the yeah, it affects everyone of all ages, and most of the time we usually get to see those people who have gotten out to the limelight, that they attempted and they died to suicide, or they attempted and it failed. But we usually also fail to see the many people who do not come out to share that at some point, maybe because of ABCD, I was ever suicidal. Yeah. And it takes many thoughts, it takes a number of trials before somebody ever gets to the point that they want to commit suicide. And so suicide is usually a very big um, it's usually a topic that is, it's usually an elephant in the room. People still don't talk about it because of how the society still views suicide, and because of what suicide means to many people, religiously, culturally. So it is still a very big elephant in the room that is less talked about. But I also think that the more we talk about it, the more we raise awareness around it. Probably, as the Bible usually say, you might preach to a congregation, but it is the day of the Lord if only one person gets convicted. So even in raising awareness, not everyone might be influenced by it, but I'm sure one or two people will be changed by the conversation.
Remember, this year's theme is changing the narrative, and the call to action is starting the conversation. I get you clearly saying that suicide is still very much a taboo topic, which means there's so many myths that are pegged to it, and that begs my question before I get back to you to lawyer here. What are some of the challenges that you experienced with before take me through before you get to therapy? You attempt suicide and then you survive and you end up in therapy. What was that window like? What are some of the events that took place? How did you finally end up doing therapy?
So the first time I tried to commit suicide, I think I was in Form 2. I was still in high school in Form 2, and I had failed during my exams. And my parents scolded me for that. So I felt so bad, and since there was nobody to talk to, I decided to. I remember very well, I took poison. I was home alone, and I took poison, and my cousin came to my rescue, called my parents. They came, they took me to the hospital, and then I stayed in the hospital for like 2 days. Then I came back, and that was the first time. Then again after high school, after I was done with college, now in 2021, I was pregnant. That was the second time now. I was pregnant, and the baby dad dumped me with the pregnancy, and I was 5 months gone. So I felt so bad.
You in college?
Yeah, I had finished college.
Okay.
I had finished college, and now I was jobless. I was not even home. I failed my KCSE, so my mother was very mad at me, and I left home. So that time I was not living home. I was living alone, and I was living with this so-called baby daddy. Then I got pregnant, and he dumped me with the pregnancy, and I was jobless. So I felt like the world has reached to the end. So I tried, and I was 5 months pregnant by then. So I tried killing myself so many times. I took a lot of drugs. I thought if I take a lot of different drugs, I could die, plus the baby, but I didn't die. So I did that the first time. I went to the hospital. I was admitted for a week. I came back alive. The pregnancy didn't go.
Did the attendants ever know that they were dealing with perhaps a mental health problem?
No, I didn't share. I was all alone. I keep a lot of things to myself. So I was all alone until I tried that the first time, it failed, the second time, and now the third time I decided to talk out.
And that's how now you end up in therapy.
Yeah, so I talked out. I reached out to, I was a member in an organization. So I reached out because in that organization, there were psychologists. So I reached out until I got referred to Whitney. And then I started my journey now with her.
How has your experience been so far?
It has been good, though I've had back and forth, back and forth. I think I've not tried committing suicide, but I've tried several times giving up because even after giving birth, it is not an easy journey being a single mom and how life is without a job, raising your kid, knowing that you're all alone. So I'm always having back and forth, the setbacks. But anytime I face them, now I know how to handle them because of the sessions that I've had. I had like 10 sessions with Whitney in 2021 until I gave birth, and again 10 again after giving birth. So now I know how to handle them.
Whitney, you are saying very categorically that suicide is a public health concern. But the way society is set at this point, even our own laws have not decriminalized suicide. So could you perhaps discuss with us maybe preventive measures around suicide, some of the referral pathways, or even to the contributing factors generally?
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, most of the time when someone resorts to suicide, you find that they've really tried all avenues in all ways that they think possible to resolve whatever is going on with them, and they feel maybe for their own betterment or for the betterment of others, they better not be here. So when the society really tries to criminalize suicide, they criminalize the act that is happening there now, and they do not fail to look at what happened prior before. Because by the time
They
someone
criminalize the symptom
yeah
of the disease that is the
disease,
system.
yes, but if you take a step back and look at what the journey of this person has been before they got here, probably we might prevent future attempts, because most of the time it comes, I mean, in our day-to-day society, we can never escape stress. Stress is always here with us. But what makes the difference between the person who lives and whatever the society terms as normal, whatever somebody normal, how they live, and that person who is in a psychiatric hospital or confined somewhere, the difference is just in how we get a chance to solve our problems, you know. Because I may be having the capacity to deal with my problems right now, and tomorrow, because of other challenges, it might be very overwhelming to deal with my issues that drive me to something that now the society calls abnormal. That now the society might say that, who sasa cheesy, now they need help. So most of the time, our mental health faces a number of challenges, a number of issues. But in our own way, we find a way to deal with our normal day-to-day stress and still be productive. When it really gets overwhelming to handle our stress because of maybe lack of social support, maybe stigma in the community and all that. So sometimes we struggle in silence. When you struggle in silence, you even try to do research of how you can solve, and sometimes it might not be the right way, or sometimes it might end up being the right way. So you try everything, you try seeking support from somewhere else. No one seems to relate with what you're going through, maybe because you're also not speaking to the right people. And then at the end of the day, you're like, no one is here to give me support, no one is here to help me. So what do? You're like, I'm better off if I'm not here in this world. So somebody ends up getting to suicide. Another thing, sometimes it might not even just be voluntary. Sometimes somebody might really be sick, they might be facing a lot of pain. It could be maybe because of an illness, it could maybe because of a trauma that they've gone through, and maybe they cannot also face the reality of what is happening to them. So they do what? they want to run away from it, you know. But even as you move forward, the society, I think over time, since mental health started becoming, I think since the pandemic, when mental health was declared a public issue, actually, it was declared a state of emergency. I think people started venturing into mental health. What is it about? What is happening in mental health, and how can we get a chance to work around it? So that is where I think mental health started picking up, and even the conversation was started, but it's not there yet. And in the process of starting to have the conversation, I think we've had people starting to come out, perspective, policies put in place. Yes, we've not decriminalized suicide, but I'm glad in Kisumu County there are some strides we've made. I think there's a bill that was passed. Yeah, but still, even as we are moving on, we still agree that suicide is still an elephant in the room. There are a lot of people who are struggling, and that's why globally, every 4 seconds, someone dies to suicide. And before criminalizing the symptoms, it's important to look at what has the journey been for this person until they got here. And luckily for someone like Loyan, who is among a good number of people who have sought out support, you know, sometimes whenever you're having an issue, stress, sometimes it might end up blocking part of your brain that processes issues, processes jargon, things that are going on in your life, and you unpacking what is going on in your head with somebody who is maybe a professional, someone that you trust, or who has that caliber to help you, might help you to think out. When you're thinking out loud, this person might help to guide your thoughts in regards to how you might get a solution to your problems, or how you can get to cope up with them. And at the end of the day, you end up finding that there is more, there's much to life, there are more solutions, or there is more to do in life than just seeking out uh, ending your life.
What do you think the policymakers, the government, the local government, stakeholders, us as a people can actually do to change the narrative around suicide, to start the conversation? Have we done enough legislation? Have we done, enough even systemic support in terms of healthcare, affordable? Because all these, anytime somebody is failing materially, you can't clothe yourself, you can't feed yourself, you can't get that job, then it is likely that it will present mentally. So what would you say to, otherwise the people hold the structures of power?
Probably, if I will start from the small scale, who is me as an individual. Um, First, I think nowadays, unlike times ago when people would need information, they will go around asking somebody. Right now, the world is digital. Most most of the people are digital. Where whenever you're struggling with something or someone, we usually have uh, call helplines. We have friends. You can always Google, although we do not prefer people to always Google. Sometimes people can really exaggerate. You can always look up at what is going on with you and how you can get supported as an individual. Invest in information. And when it comes to information, you can always look it up online. You can always talk to someone. You can always, find a place whenever you're struggling. I know it's not easy, maybe out of experience. Some people feel like if I go and share out my issue, I might not be helped. But it's also appropriate for you to find out the appropriate person to also share out with, and where to seek for information, not just everywhere. And also sometimes as a family, I might be struggling, but sometimes in a family, it's always important to check up on each other, because at the end of the day, family is all we got, right? And that is always supposed to be the basic social support network that any person can ever rely on. So sometimes as a family, when somebody walks up to you and they share that they're struggling mentally, it's important for you to pay attention to them. It's important for you to be kind to your sister, to your brother that you're living with, because you never know what they're going through outside there. And most of the time, they usually say home is where you belong. So if you cannot feel safe at home, where should you feel safe at? And then as we move up the food chain in the community, this is the community where you live. So sometimes whenever you're struggling with mental health, most of the time this community might be a contributing factor, because if you also get very good support from them, if they understand how to work with you, how to deal with you, then it's easier for you whenever whenever something is not right with you. The community will always be there to pick you up, to always be there to identify that, Whitney is living in in our community, but nowadays we see there's something wrong within the family where Whitney is coming from. It's upon us to intervene, you know. Instead, but sometimes the society is like, I've attempted suicide, I was caught and it failed, and so anytime I come back to the community, how will they refer me? Uh, uh, if somebody is even asking for donation, yeah, that family where that lady tried to kill herself. So every time somebody comes, even if they didn't know me, but that is how I'm identifying the community, everyone ends up knowing what my mental health struggle was, you know. So also the stigma, most of the time, the community stigma is even, it really, how can I put it, usually excavates the mental health struggles, unlike whatever is even going on itself. And then it's also within the community where we also need to be having we need to be having centers where people can get help from, yeah, medically and social help from, because sometimes when we look at our mental health clinic, they're usually very far, and I think of late we are trying to establish mental health clinic in every sub county, but that will still take a lot of resources and time to get there. Then even as we move up the systems, uh, when we look at the healthcare workers, not all healthcare workers have been trained on, it's called quality rights, quality rate and psychological first aid, where when somebody is coming with a mental health crisis and all that, you know how to help and give them support. Yeah, so, and even in regards to the legislation, it's a high time we decriminalize suicide, because we end up trying to punish the person for the symptoms that they are showing up, instead of trying to work around resolving what is the root cause that may make somebody to be suicidal.
What is the status of mental health in Kisumu County? Do we have enough facilities and resources to sustain the population?
I don't think if we have enough resources and facilities to sustain, because I think in Kisumu we have one inpatient public. I'm talking about public facility. We have one inpatient, which is the Kisumu County Referral Hospital, that is inpatient, that can only accommodate 16 patients. But sometimes when you get there, you even find even almost 35 patients, which means that it is overpopulated, which even puts a health hazard to those people who are now overpopulated, because that is a psychiatric inpatient clinic. In regards to outpatient, we have sub-county hospitals that usually offer mental health services, but you'll always find that in regards to service provision, the human resource is usually very little. Yeah, because I think the last statistic was it one personnel to 10,000? Yeah, because you go to a facility that serves a whole sub county, you find that there is only maybe one or two psychologists who are not even paid. A mental health clinician, not a psychiatrist, will always be there to offer support. I think in Kisumu we have, is it 5 or 6 psychiatrists to our population of Kisumu County? And I know Kisumu County also usually hosts the neighboring sub-counties. So you can really see the burnout that our mental health practitioners go through in regards to offering support, because they also need
The
support.
mental health care system is in the pits. What about TINADA?
TINADA. Yeah, TINADA is also, so just apart from the public facilities that we have, we are glad that we also have a civil society organization and non-governmental organizations that come in to offer support So for those people whose mental health is at a state where it can still be easily managed, they usually get a chance to see the psychologists at various NGOs before, where so that when it's beyond them, that is now when they are referred to the hospitals to seek for further support. So an organization like TINADA, previously we've had 8 psychologists, 10 psychologists, sorry. 10 psychologists who have been offering support, but as you know, with organization, they usually rely mostly on funds, whereby when the fund is depleted, it means that sometimes it gets very hard sustaining this this kind of resources that are usually that the community gets to benefit. Yeah, but as an organization, we are really making strides, ensuring that we reach out to partners and donors to support us so that we can continue supporting the community that we live and serve. Uh, During this journey where you were struggling with your mental health, uh, how many people like within your social circle knew about it and gave you and who gave you support during
Or
your
how did they
struggle?
react?
Yeah, or
If
for those
they
whom you will share with,
reacted negatively.
how will they react? Or how were they contributing more to your mental health challenges? And then when we're mentioning, you can give us what was your lowest moment in your mental health journey that you say that, hey, this was it. And what was the best highlight after you had overcome all this?
So while I was depressed, I can say that, I used not to share much because anytime I could share, people not people I shared with used to see this as a normal thing. Being dumped by a baby daddy is just normal. Being jobless and you're pregnant is just normal. So they were not helping. I felt like these people are not helping. Instead, they are adding more pain into whatever I'm already going through. Yeah, so I stopped sharing, and even to my family members, while I shared, they were putting their own problems in front of mine. So instead of them helping me, they were. So when I come to share with someone, instead of this person helping me, they have to tell me more about their problems. So I feel like mine is not even that much. Yeah. And my lowest moment was when I was pregnant. That was the worst bit of it. Leave alone even the ones in high schools. Those were, I think after high school, I realized those were not even that deep. But when I was pregnant, it was deep. It was so serious. And after the sessions, I got better. And after I gave birth, I think I got better. After giving birth, I had a safe delivery and my child was doing okay until I was still struggling for like a year. So I think I've not had, I've just been fine. People should take suicide so serious, and people should learn to talk. While you're going through something, you should learn to share. And these people who we consider as our confidant, that we go to share, please, if somebody comes to you, you should just give them that listening ear. Because sometimes, according to me and my journey, I feel like all I needed was just somebody to listen to me. Yes, because I didn't even need medicines or anything. I just wanted somebody I could talk to. This person hears and advises me. So I think people should talking should be a tendency. So whenever you're going through something, just talk. Yes.
Emotional honesty.
Yes, you just open up and talk. And you should not talk to everybody, because you should find somebody that you feel when you talk to this person, you're going to come out with some help. Yes, some people when you talk to them, it's like you've added another problem on top of another one.
Suicide is usually not the end solution, and most of the time, whenever somebody attempts suicide, most of the attempts that we've seen that were successful, that is usually considered to be a success after a number of attempts. So most of the time, each and every person, wherever they are, everyone is struggling with something. So always just learn how to be kind to someone who is next to you. You never know, you might be their savior at their low moment. Just as Loyan has mentioned, not everyone shares their low moments, but just it's just a good gesture to just be human enough to always be kind to someone next to you. And when someone shares their mental health struggles with you, always learn to be very empathetic. And not everybody is as strong as maybe you. Somebody, whatever might seem as common to you, might be very heavy to someone. So never assume anything, just always be ready to be empathetic, to offer social support to somebody, and be kind. It never kills to be kind. Yeah.
Thank you. And I am changing the narrative by reminding you all that suicide is a public health issue and not a criminal justice issue. That human beings are deserving of collective dignity, of access to health care, to basic decency, to housing, to everything that sustains them.